Hey guys, Julian here. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make some music like Sophie. Now, I didn't entirely nail it, but I think I nailed a lot of the concepts and ideas that are like really important if you want to make music in this style, and just sort of I think I have a pretty good understanding of how all this stuff works. So, I want to make this video to show you. So, to start off with, this is what you heard in the intro. We're at 130 BPM. It's like a pretty kind of like slower halftime type of beat. And I hear this a lot in Sophie's music. Of course, like Face Shopping, Pony Boy, like those kind of tracks really have that like slow, like sludgy kind of like deep low end. And this isn't exactly like that, but I think she's definitely very into doing stuff like this. So that's what I did with this. Now to start off with, I have this lead, and it's made in Serum. Almost all of this is made in Serum. I tried to synthesize as many sounds as I could because when I was reading about like Sophie's like production and just what people have picked up on, it seems like she's doing a lot of the sounds by synthesizing them herself and very few samples, and really just using samples to sort of embellish sounds, as I can show you with some of the stuff I've done later. But yeah, so I tried to synthesize as many of these sounds as possible. So what I did for this lead was this. It sounds like this on its own. And the reason why I use this sound is because this kind of highlights something that I think is very present in her music, which is a lot of like using synthesizers in less than normal ways. And what I mean by that is like the normal way you would make like a synth lead or something would be like maybe a square wave with like a low pass filter on it or something, or maybe like a little bit of distortion and reverb, and that would be it. But the way I made this sound was a little bit weird. So it's these two not saw waves, they're two square waves. And what they have is this really short little envelope on them. And then what I did on top of that to make the effect that you're hearing, I'll turn off this distortion as well, is I put on this bandpass filter with this envelope, which is like making it go down. So you get that little metallic kind of like clicking type of sound. And then I just distorted it. And you can hear that just kind of brings out the ringiness of that sound. And so when I say this is using a synthesizer in like a weird way, I guess there's not really any like weird way to use a synthesizer, but this definitely isn't what you would picture when you imagine like a trap lead, for example. So it's kind of about like, taking your mind sort of outside of the box of like what is like a normal sound and making sounds with that kind of thing in mind. This next sound I have is this little thing, which is just like this hi-hat. And I made it, it's very simple. It's just two sine waves with FM. FM synthesis is very important too, especially for like these kind of metallic sounds. Sophie uses that a lot. So I did a little bit of FM from B, and then the second oscillator set up like this. And then I have this white noise on it, which is pretty crucial to the sound because you can like really hear the two parts of it like that. And then I just put on this EQ with a little bit of a high-end boost, but not really much. And while I'm on this thing and this lead, I want to talk about something too, is like I was reading this one interview with Sophie where she said like when she makes synth sounds, she's not necessarily like, she's kind of thinking about her synths as materials, and like her songs are almost like sculptures. Like she tries to imagine like she tries to use physics and apply that with like her knowledge of synthesis. So what I mean by this is like when you're making a sound, for example, this lead, and this is a very, very basic way to describe this. This is just like a way for me to quickly describe it. But like for example, with this kind of stuff. Okay, if you wanted to make like a little like metallic ringing kind of sound like this, I guess, you would think like you think about like, okay, what would that sound like? Like what are the physical properties of that sound that make it sound that way? Or if you want to make like one of the like metallic snares, for example, you think about like, okay, if I like hit a piece of metal, for example, what physical things are going to happen that are going to cause that to sound the way it's going to sound? And then you sort of apply that to your knowledge of like Serum, for example, and it's a pretty interesting way to come up with sounds, and I think it's very important to this style of music. So, yeah. Now, the next thing I will talk about is the kick/bass, because they're just like one big thing. And it's 3 layers, and it sounds like this on its own. So this is something that kind of, I've heard a lot of different styles of this in Sophie's music, but I tried to just make one that was sort of all-encompassing. And what it is it's this. This is the sound that you sort of would say is characteristically of this sound. And then there's the sub, which is literally just a sine wave and some saturation, and then this kick. Because this didn't have enough, these two didn't have enough punch on their own. So I layered in the kick. And so what this first layer is it's just a square wave with a ton of unison, and then I have this LFO on the pitch, the coarse pitch here. And the LFO is just set like this. It's like a little ramp, and it's on envelope mode. And then if we go in the matrix, I'm pretty sure I also, okay, so it's just on there, and then I used it elsewhere as well. Okay, so then there's also this little sub on here that doesn't really do much. I don't know why I have it on, but when I take it off, it does sort of work with the warbliness of this detuned square wave to make the sound kind of more like out there, so that helps. After that, so I did do something a little bit interesting with this. So what I did was I distorted it, so it sounded like this. And then I put this multiband compressor on to make it more like midsy and crunchy. And then after that, I put on this filter. It's like a low pass filter. And I put two modulators on that. I put the envelope, which is doing the volume envelope as well, just envelope 1. And then I also put the LFO on there, that one that was on the pitch that's going like really fast. And so what this does is you get that quick little like click, but then you also get the slow decay. So if I, like, for example, if I turn off the fast one, you don't get that like click. And if I turn off the slow one, one moment, I have to put this on there. Okay, hold up. So, yeah, like I was saying, if I turn off the slow one, I will do like this. Then you don't get that like slow decay. So kind of requires both. But that's how I made that sound. And this is something I hear a lot in her tracks. Like, she does these like really big blown out kind of basses. They have a lot of different textures, but this one seemed to have, or this one is like kind of something that I hear a lot. It's like these big detuned square waves is a really good way to get the kind of Sophie sound. I'll say that. And yeah, so that's that layer. The sub is really straightforward. I just duplicated that layer down and then took everything off, so it was just the sub. I guess these are on, but it's going direct out. And then I put a little saturation on there to make it more like, to make it sort of glue with the other layers a little bit better and give it a little bit more harmonic content. And then there's just this kick, which is really straightforward. It's just a sample that I found. And the only guidelines I'll say for this is like it needs to have that hard punch. And then, like I said, like this kind of like detuned square waves is a good way to do it. You could also do maybe like something a little bit rougher, like if I took off the filter. That also kind of sounds like Sophie. I mean, it's really up to you, but to get these kind of kicks, it's just a matter of having a good sub and a good punchy kick. You need to think of it as 3 layers. Think of the sub and the like hard kick as like the things that are always going to stay the same, and then this layer is the one that you can change each time to make it interesting. Now, for the snare. So I wasn't able to perfectly replicate the like metallic snares on my own, but I did layer some samples together in a way that I think you can still learn from. So the snare on its own sounds like this. And it's 3 layers. It's this one, and then this one, which is just like a clap. So the idea here is that you just need to get good with like layering together these metallic sounds, really, because you can find these samples. You don't need to be able to perfectly recreate the metallic snare, and I don't think that it's something that can be perfectly recreated. To be honest with you, I think it's kind of like one of those sort of like unicorn sounds, and the reason for it is because it's a very finicky sound. In my experience, trying to recreate it, and I did take a lot of time trying to recreate it for this tutorial. The ways you get it are very like finicky and are very based on like a case by case basis that it's kind of hard to perfectly recreate it. Now, I will say you can get kind of like in the ballpark of it if you get like if you do like some FM maybe with 2 sine waves. Like if I do this, you'll start to hear kind of like some textures of it. Like this kind of stuff, you can get close to it if you want to do this. You know, stuff like that. I could go on for a long time doing that, but to really nail it, I think it's more about layering samples. So that's what I did here. I took this one, which had a nice high end, and then this one, which was a little bit beefier, and layered them together. And they're in the same key, so it works. Did I pitch these? I don't think I did. No, I mean, these are samples from SOPHIE. So that's really as close as I think I could get with a metallic snare. But yeah, and then I just have this clap on there, which adds, you know, a little bit of like a high-end like snappiness to it. So it's just about layering, really. And like I said, this SOPHIE sample pack that she's released with Splice has a lot of really good metallic sounds in it, and you can definitely get something going from there. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. How to make music like SOPHIE. I gave it my best shot. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know, just let me know anything in the comments. Like this video if you like the video. Subscribe, share the video if you feel so compelled. Check out my sample packs in the description. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Peace, guys.